السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. همين في الجولة ديالي يدق مالي على كذا هذا برنامجك مرة عالمك وررك وين برنامجك كجران ولي باكم ده مع القبائل الدينية ولي بايدن كذا إن دورشة ترامب قال لها ين كلين مركي أولاق دورشة ترامب وسا إيلون ماسك الشيء إن 40 مليون دولار كأمريكان كيف بالولد كدقة دون اللايو شهر نوفمبر معناته بيوك باللاوداس برنامجك سينكاينا كمال هاريس من مركلي لمرة لا هي ترامب يا ولي برتلياشة ويجي إن مركلة ثرت مكرت كمال هاريس وأولها وين كأمريكان برنامجك سين بيانا qodobada kalena siinhay waliba kumadaha ruushkiya waliba geega xaq ay suurtagalnimada inuu soo hubshay inuu biyo ka jeeyo karo goobaha ka dhow ee dalalka Yurub iyo Mareykanka barnaamijka yaasin gudbiyana hogaamiyaha xuutiyiinta Yemen Maxamed Ali al-Xuutina waliba markii korreeyay bandhiga qorshaha fadahaya gargaarka Faransiiska jeeya Gaza barnaamijka yaasin kayna qodobadaas iyo warar kale yaasin gudbiyana barnaamijka mura caalamka min fayla في البرنامج كان مرة عالم كورتل كارلا يلا درة تناقل كنا ولبا جمع السد أمريكان كوسك هذا جو بايدن إنه مركزيتي قال لها إن دور الشدة يدونا ترامب أولو ليان كلين مركي إيلون ماسك سدوان شاق إن 14 مليون أو بالول بأن كديقود دون أولا لا ترامب وكمية الشخصيات كبايدن وسكدل عين يسكديها إن دور الشدة إنه لعك قال لهم ولبا جرى نية جب مركزيتي كوجهان هانتيليال كديمقراطية تاجران هانسون قارشوا هوسن دقها إن مالكليان أولا لا بايدن سووا الهرير هوسن ديو كسوجها يا ololaashay taasoo Trump markaasaytin ku faa'iideysan kara inuu isku muujiyo musharax leh rajada guul doorashada bil November shantiya markii la dareeray biyalka barnaamijka darartan Kamala Harris markale la ololayahay Biden waliba uu markaasayti markii korreeyay la taliyaashay weydiiyay hadii jarta fursad doorashadu soo guuleysay korka xogeenka Kamala Harris sida markaasayti ilo ka dhow xigiti CNN tan waliba ka dhigantaa in Biden uu san aragaya in injarna awood kanaga kor Trump heli gudaha xisbiga dimuqraadiga iyo ku socdaan olole la weydiyo in Biden la kareeba doorashada sama sharax awood leena tartamo kora masraxana dhisuur mu kor Trump linshana barnaamijka muro caalamka ee wartel karlada iyo la darartan kolkana waliba fiiriyana dhinig iyo ruushka dhawaan wasiirka arrimaha dibadda wadanka ruushka Sergey Lavrov waliba uu hadalka jeediyay fadhiga golaha ammaanka ee qaramada midoobay uu ka sheegay usana waa waliba usaray waliba aan baahnaa wada hadal dhabe oo la koroojiyo dhiiga dadweynaha ee Gaza waliba taageersanaa xubinimada Falastiin ee qaramada midoobay waliba diidinaa wala ka dhiyahay Gaza ee Israa'iil fuliyahay oo soo sii dowhay waliba intaasi ka daray Guterres waliba sheegay in Gaza iyo ita meel kaliya ee colaadda ka jiran ee caalamka oo dhan dadka degan loo ogolaan inay baxsadaan colaadaha bariga dhexe oo haano markaasidka dhal siyaasadda Mareykanka ka fashilantay heliiska maxaabiista Biden iyo waliba kamid ah to la xumaada walina diidinaa Israa'iil Falastiiniyiinta waa in la sii fursad iyo markaasidii Aishon ka talada koran yoona wal fargelin diimeed aan la kulana ya eri waa Sergey Lavrov wasiirka arrimaha dibadda wadanka Ruushka Lavrov oo soo khudbadiisii wadada luqadda markaasidii Russianka ku dawhay waa ko
Good afternoon, everyone.
Evelyn?
Good afternoon, everybody. We start our press conference. It will be in Russian, but interpretation in English is provided. Please, Mr. Minister.
Добрый день.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to meet all of you again. My presence in New York is due to the fact that under the Russian presidency yesterday and today, we've held two central events, the open debate, namely, it means that they can be attended not just by the members of the UN Security Council, but all the delegations who wish to do so. So both yesterday and today, we've had a great number of participants. The first issue that we took up during the open debate yesterday was dedicated to the discussion of the fundamental aspects of international relations, multilateral cooperation, and multipolarity. We have drawn the attention to the fact that the system set up after the Second World War and was based upon the central role of the UN is eroding step by step. I think you've heard both my statement and the statements of other participants. We hardly expected that we would be able to agree on most issues given the current tense atmosphere and the international relations, and given how the relations between the collective West and the world majority are developing. But be that as it may, even though we harbored no illusion, we think this discussion has been very useful. Anyway, most participants have agreed that there are themes to be discussed, there are problems. Many have shared assessments which coincide with our vision of the nascent multipolar world order, which is currently emerging, objectively speaking, and I spoke about that in my statement as well. The second conclusion is that there's a high chance that the discussion is going to be followed up on. There is a growing interest in that. We are going to support that interest by all means at our disposal. We're going to organize additional discussions on this topic, not just at the UN, but in other platforms, multilateral platforms as well, including the G20, certainly in BRICS, in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as well as in our contacts with regional organizations, associations of Asia, Latin America, and Africa. And as the representative of Guyana said yesterday quite clearly, we need to rebuild trust because so far there is no dialogue whatsoever. And another point he made, it's impossible to rebuild trust unless everyone, without exception, sticks to the agreement that we have arrived at. So far, we're not witnessing any sign that this is happening, and it was the impression and assessment shared yesterday, and the same was said in particular during this open debate with a particular emphasis on Palestine, on the Middle East. Most resolutions on the Middle East, on Palestine, are not being observed. And the second open debate I've mentioned is still going on. Many participants have spoken in favor of resolute steps. Their position coincides with ours. The first thing to do is to put an end to the hostilities, to the military operation, to announce an indefinite ceasefire, to address the dire humanitarian situation, and certainly put an end to Israel's activities involving the construction of illegal colony settlements. And once that is done, we hope that this is going to be done, this will create the environment for resuming the UN talks on the establishment of a Palestinian state that is going to peacefully and securely coexist with Israel. Our presidency continues, and the day after tomorrow, July the 19th, we've scheduled another round of open debate. It's going to be chaired by my deputy, Mr. Vershinin. It's going to be dedicated to the relations between the UN and the CSTO, the CIS, and the SCO. Incidentally, I've had a series of bilaterals with the ministers of Arab states, with the foreign minister of Hungary, as well as with the foreign minister of Switzerland. So that's my summary. So let's go into talks. I'll take your questions now.
To UN Correspondent Association, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Foreign Minister, on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association. It's Valeria Robecco from ANSA Newswire. My question is, President Zelensky on Monday said that Russia should be represented at a second peace summit on Ukraine in November. Will you consider participating? What do you expect from that? Thank you so much.
Well, we've spoken on this subject on multiple occasions now and shared our assessments. The second summit, as you point out, is a natural follow-up to the process which was launched a year ago when in Copenhagen a small group of states gathered together. It was followed by a number of other meetings called the Copenhagen format. Each and every time our Western counterparts by hook or by crook, using different means at their disposals, giving promises, trying to draw as many countries to participate in those events as possible. And the last time the Copenhagen format met in Davos, it happened in January, and the margins of the World Economic Forum. Right afterwards, the first ministerial session of the UN Security Council on Palestinian issue happened. It was chaired by France. I also participated in that event. And my Swiss counterpart, Ignazio Cassis, also was in New York back then. We had a meeting. It was their request. And I said that, yes, there was another Copenhagen format meeting in the margins of the World Economic Forum. And after that, Minister Cassis, speaking to journalists, said that it was impossible to reach an agreement without Russia's participation. So I asked him, if you're convinced of that, why hold another meeting? There was no response. But the response is as follows. They've taken a course towards pushing by any means the so-called Zelensky's plans, which to a large extent looks like an ultimatum. And my Swiss counterpart warned me back in January that after that they would hold a peace summit, but it was not a summit per se, it was a peace conference. Yes, it was attended by a number of leaders, but most of those who came to the conference were represented at a lower level. It was a month ago in Bergenstock in Switzerland. That's where the meeting was held. And after that, the overwhelming majority of participants shared very restrained, if not negative, assessments of the outcome of that meeting. We could get back to that later, but let me get back to the second summit that you have mentioned. After Bergenstock, both Zelensky and some Western representatives started floating the idea of a second summit, citing Switzerland and other countries that could offer a platform for the second round of that conference. But speaking about the subject they would broach at that conference.
waayahay guud ahaan waliba intaa kaas maragna barnaamijka muro caalamka ee warteelka arladi barnaamijkan hadda kulmaan